啲填海就影響移民，啲填農地咪影響咗農民一樣咯。睇下你點樣去平衡嗰個社會。嗰個海仲大過嗰個啊！好啊。官未到場啊？
未坐齊，未坐齊。
好啦，我哋會議繼續。
Let's resume. We'll start our second session now. The secretary is not here.
現在我哋請全體代表。
We'll give the floor to deputations. Each deputation or individual will have 3 minutes to speak. Your written submissions and oral submissions are not entitled to the protection and immunities under that Co-Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 3A6. Right. I'll give the floor to a representative from DAB. Thank you, Chairman. The DAB has always asked administration to increase land supply to meet the housing and economic needs. We indeed have a very urgent need for more land. So DAB supports the six-pronged approach proposed by the government, and this includes reclamation on an appropriate scale outside Victoria Harbour. However, in the past few years, it appears that the administration has focused mainly on cavern development and reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. Regarding redevelopment, land resumption, clearance and use of ex-quarry sites, I believe the administration has not done enough about these. So we must really make good use of the six proposals so that we can have enough land for development. And in building up our land reserve, I hope the administration can make clear the possible use. In particular, facilities after relocation to cavern will release valuable land. Most of them are just at the waterfront. Before relocating the facilities, the administration should tell the community exactly what the sites will be used for, and I'm sure that will get the support of the community. And DAB welcomes the government's decision to avoid sites that are more controversial. For instance, Twin Moon, Area 37, and also Wu Kai Sha. These proposals are rather controversial, and they have been removed from the proposed sites, and this is welcomed by the community. If the administration is to look for future possible sites, please consult the community more widely. For instance, the administration may want to reclaim land in Somchang. I have to declare interest. I live there, and I have heard many objections from members of the community. But it appears that the administration hasn't done enough consultation, or the consultation, the scope of consultation is rather confined.
So they should have conducted more public consultation. Mr. Richard Choi. I studied in Chinese U, and I serve Shatin district, so I have strong ties to Shatin. The first round of consultation, the government took the Wukaisa and deleted and removed that site from consideration. At the time, I objected to reclamation in Wukaisa, but now we have the Ma Liu Sui question. And Ma Liu Sui is it's the same as Wukaisa. It's an area of concern. As a Chinese U alumni, it has a close relationship with Chinese U. So our feelings are an important consideration. The Ma Liu Sui reclamation, it is an inlet for Xingmun River connecting to Tolo Harbour. The inlet has a lot of environmental issues. Further reclamation will lead to more concern about the water quality and environmental pollution. The government has not provided any studies that can relieve our concerns. Second, the government says it is near a new town, the transport is convenient, it's suitable for development, but because it is a developed area, the density, ventilation, there are problems in these areas. But the problem now is there has been insufficient planning, and we reiterate that the government shelve the Ma Liu Sui reclamation plan. Mr. Freddie Hai from Hong Kong Institute of Architects. We support creative design and creating modern lifestyle. So the Institute of Architects will support policies that support a sustainable development. The government phase 2 consultation, especially reclamation outside Victoria Harbour, the Institute support that in principle. This strategic policy can relieve some concerns regarding long-term development, but in this consultation document, the focus has only been on caverns and reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. How we can, there have only been very brief mentioning of options, the overall logic, and has not been is not the logic is not fully it's not fully reasonable. So we cannot rush through things in just to expedite administrative measures. So first of all, we need to take action, and we need to examine policies, including first, on controversial policies, we need to have comparative studies. For example, the indigenous village housing policy. We have to see how much NT land can be released to reduce the need for reclamation. Second, for policies that are controversial, for example, land that has been destroyed, we need to have a more thorough investigation on conservation. Third, we should review current policies and amend policies. We should stop the wastage of land, such as the extensive use of land hogging on transport facilities. Society needs a more transparent handling of controversial issues. Fifth, after the technical research, there should be design competitions before implementing legislative work. Thank you. Pengzao Reclamation Concern Group, Mr. Tony Fung. Thank you, Emily Lau, for helping us find Mr. Paul Chan. I had attended a previous consultation where Mrs. Carrie Lam was present all the time. I'm amazed why there's another phase of consultation, because phase one was objected to reclamation. If you look at the random telephone survey, there were more objections than supporters. It's not a random sample. The objectors were just slightly less than supporters. But that was not a random survey. The survey had also mentioned the six-prong approach. The respondents felt that reclamation was the least important. On page 7.8.3.8, in the six-prong approach, people felt that the least important was reclamation. And now the government says the public support the six-prong approach, including land reclamation. So, what was the basis for your conclusion? The public have reservations for land reclamation, but you're saying they're supporting land reclamation. After phase one, there was a 200-page report, only English, but there was a 10-page Chinese summary. Who wrote the report? The consultant. And the overall report was written in English. So you spent millions on consultation. So I assume you spent 100,000 to translate it into Chinese. Why didn't you have a Chinese version? So aside from the consultation process, the disclosure of results, of which language and which media should be considered. The 10-page summary didn't highlight the question just now. That is, in the six-prong approach, they felt that the least important was reclamation. Ms. Lei Manji. I'm a civil engineering student from Zhuhai College. In today's Hong Kong, this is a controversial subject. A lot of Hong Kong people think reclamation destroys the natural habitat or it's a source of pollution, but technology has improved. The previous concerns on maritime traffic, pollution, these can be overcome. For example, the artificial island out off the airport, it doesn't need dredging, it minimizes pollution, and the water quality impact is minimized. I hope this can alleviate your fears and concerns, and if the government simulate reclamation, then the public can have a better understanding of the impact on natural habitat. Aside from this, I'd like to say we're concerned about high property prices, lack of government housing. We would like the government to handle these. If that can be done, then I would support the policy. Given the increasing population, I think reclamation outside Victoria Harbour is an appropriate method. High property prices pose a barrier to ownership, and a lot of retailers find it hard to survive. So if we had more land, this could solve these problems. On waste management, our landfills are about to expire, and columbariums are in great demand. I think reclamation can solve some of these problems. If we have more public support, we need to balance the different needs, and site selection is very important. So if different needs can be balanced, then we can get public support. Thank you. Mr. Holden Chow, Freung DAB. I've heard a lot of objections to reclamation, but we need to admit that in the past, a lot of housing was provided through reclamation. So even though there are some negative impacts of reclamation, but we need to strike a balance between development and conservation. We cannot have a one-sided argument when we talk about reclamation. That might not be appropriate. In principle, through reclamation we can gain new land resources, and if these resources can solve urgent housing needs, then it deserves support. I want to focus on some details. There are two sites that I'm concerned, Siu Ho Wan and Sunny Bay. These sites are proposed to reclaim land, and they might be used as a logistics center or a tourist facility. If the land reclaimed is only for these two purposes, it's not for housing, then I think housing needs are greater. If we undertake a large project, we should satisfy urgent public demand. The use should be considered more carefully. So I think we shouldn't have a one-sided objection, we can look at and if we can build housing, that's a feasible option. Mr. Law Kwan, there has been a lot of controversy regarding the development of caverns and reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. I support the six-prong approach. I believe the majority of public are concerned about natural habitat, and some individuals and institutes are object to land reclamation. But looking back on Hong Kong history, the Kwai Chung Container Terminal, the Wan Chai Convention Exhibition Center, the Chalap Kok Airport, the old Kai Tak Airport were built on reclaimed land. If we never had these facilities, would we still be able to maintain our airline hub, our logistics hub status? Regarding livelihood, the first large major scale project was in Shatin New Town. It resolved a big housing need. The Taipo Industrial Village also came about through land reclamation. But in this round of consultation, the government needs to bear in mind public concerns. For example, in Siu Ho Wan, the paper has not provided details, especially the development of a logistics center. Currently, the urgency to build a logistics center is not as great as in 2005. There were also no details on the artificial island. Would NIMBY facilities be built there? This is something of concern. When we set aside land for a land bank, we need to consider political change and social change. So we need to have timely review. Lastly, in site selection, I would like the government to conduct EIA and public consultation. There should be consensus and public support. I also believe the public will support cavern development, and NIMBY facilities set in caverns can enhance the environment and bring about better efficiencies. So I hope there can be more investigation and consultation. Thank you. Mrs. Tam Leung Salfan from Ocean View Residents' Right Association. We object reclamation in Mali Usoi. I've lived in Mount San for 20 years, some 10 years in Ocean View. The residents have a lot of emotional ties to Shatin. The reasons for reclamation are the explosive population growth, but we see that population growth is slowing down. In our past estimates, there was only one certainty, that was the figures were inaccurate. So now the government says the situation is grave, but developed land is only some 25%. A lot of unused land. There's a lot of unused land. Our estimates are that some 9,000 hectares are unused. So why is Mali Usoi selected as a reclamation site? In the last month or so, the Mount San residents and CU alumni collected some 20,000 objections signatures. There were also questionnaires. Some 90% to object to reclamation. The government ignored conservation pleas. They demolished the Star Ferry Pier. They said they would return the harbor to the public. but the land is just used as an open area. But they're now considering handing the land to the PLA. They are reneging on their pledge. We should try to meet housing needs. The government has a lack of credibility. We question the government. They are not willing to release land, and there is less land supply to real estate developers, so prices will skyrocket. When units are completed, they can sell it at an even higher price. The 328 hectare Kai Tak, only 1/3 is set aside for public housing. So there's a bias towards private property developers. Land prices are going up. It's only set aside for luxury units. And Mr. Polchen says Ma Liu Sui is a treasure. So it will be a backyard for billionaires. So a nominal value is charged for private clubs. The debentures range from millions to 10 million, and the size is of 575 hectares. And they had renewed the lease for another 15 years. They had contravened land use rights.
Next is Mr. Li Pengkun, Association of Engineering Professionals in Society. Thank you, Chairman. Population growth, economic development, and improvement to living conditions all need land. Hong Kong is a hilly region, and we have little land. Therefore, we had reclamations in the past. We were able to produce land and build houses and offices and shops, shopping malls on time. And we continue to live and work in Hong Kong. In the past, we are living in small units, and property prices are rising. People live in cramped space, and the poor have to rely on public housing. Rents are rising even for commercial property. There is little land. We don't have enough land supply, and if we have a land bank, then we'll have enough land supply for community facilities, schools, hospitals, and houses. Now, in the first round of consultation, we supported the six-pronged approach of supplying land, including the reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. Reclamation outside Victoria Harbour will produce large sites, and the land can be put in the land bank as reserves. As for the 5 proposed sites in the consultation paper, including Long Ku Tan, 01, Sunny Bay, Tsing South West, and Ma Liu Shui, they are not environment sensitive area. And Long Ku Tan, Yen, Sunny Bay are in the bays and therefore they will not affect the dolphins. And so Ma Liu Shui has changed a lot over the years, and there has been reclamation in Ma Liu Shui, and over 10 hectares of land has been reclaimed from Ma Liu Shui for the COHK. We need to increase land for our development. We therefore need to reclaim land. If we can have good environmental assessment, and if there can be good infrastructure, then land can be very valuable. And every day we are bringing C&D materials to Taishan from 2007 to 2013, more than 400 tons brought to Taishan, and it can build a city like in Shui Wai. We put the materials to send out materials to other places. That's a waste of resources. We need to start a study on reclamation outside Hong Kong Harbour. Thank you. Next is Mr. Chen Chi-man of Young Engineers in Society of Association of Engineering Professionals in Society. Thank you, Chairman. Our position is that we support enhancement land supply Reclamation outside Victoria Harbour and use of caverns will provide more land. We are also concerned about professional development. Rather, we are concerned about the development. The monitoring of the projects is important. In the consultation, paper design and implementation will need about 10 years to produce land. We believe that the engineers in Hong Kong will continue to contribute to the development of Hong Kong. The project cuts across the terms of the government and the Legislative Council. We are concerned that will slow down the pace of development. The project should be supported by law, and there can be long-term development plans backed up by law, and there should be sustainable development. The cost of producing land is very high, and reclamation includes many contracts, and there are uncertainties leading to the difficulty of maintaining the cost within the estimate. We support the project. It should be a kind of NEC or private sector participation. Producing land will benefit the community, but with the current political climate, it is difficult to achieve consensus. We've contacted young engineers. The majority support sustainable development, increased production of land. We hope the administration will put people's livelihood first in dealing with land supply. We are concerned about the development of the environment. Environment protection should go hand in hand with development. Conservation should not stifle development. When there are many underprivileged people, we need to help them by providing land. We will provide job opportunities. We will provide tourism attractions. I think a conservation committee should be formed to look after the environment issues in these projects. We believe that the contractors and the government are able to monitor the quality of work, and there is a need to make sure that there are adequate resources and manpower and machinery for the project. Quality of the project depends on understanding, on ability. There should be, reclamation should produce new towns for people to live and work. As for the artificial island, there should be a new CBD. Thank you. Next is the Institution of Civil Engineers Hong Kong Association. Our institution is of the view that reclamation and development and cavern development will help to produce land effectively. If suitable steps are undertaken, there will not be difficulties. They can be solved technically. The cavern project is supported by us. There is a lot of room for making use of caverns or underground space. As for reclamation, we support increasing our land reserve, but how much do we need? We need certain indicators, and the land reserve should be in line with economic activities and population, but there isn't enough information in the paper. In principle, we support the Maliu Shui reclamation that includes relocating the Shatin sewage treatment works. There is synergy if we do that we do them in tandem. The reclamation study should include social cost analysis. We shouldn't just consider the economic side. We support further studies. Whether the reclamation will go ahead will depend on the outcome of the studies. And the last consultation, we have made our following comments. The government has to have a comprehensive plan for land supply, for land revitalization, the role of public and private sector. There should be a 10-year land supply program. There should also be a 10-year demand projection. There's a need to set indicators, measurable indicators on the demand and supply of land. There should be a formula, and the program or the land supply program should be reviewed every year. It should be transparent. It should be made known to the community. Government land policy is related to population. According to the administration, by 2039, population rose to 8.9 million people, and the demand for flats 3.1 million. How do they come about? And what is the sensitivity? The administration has to provide the details. Next is Hong Kong Association of Aging in Place Limited, Mr. Jonathan Choi. Ladies and gentlemen, government officials, councillors, good morning. Hong Kong is densely populated. We live in cramped space. According to the Steering Committee on Long-Term Housing, about 170,000 people in Hong Kong are living in 69,000 subdivided units. Half of the people are living in space which don't have individual toilets and kitchens, and some even lack water supply. And according to the latest figure, there are more than 110,000 applicants on the waiting list. This housing is the most urgent issue. Increasing land supply is a answer to housing shortage. We need development, and we need to balance that with conservation. In conducting EIA studies, they have to be thorough. Otherwise, it will be a repetition of the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge. There will be delays, and that will only increase costs. We support suitable reclamation in the Victoria Harbour. We also support putting obnoxious facilities in the caverns. This will support more land. Will supply more land. The administration should consider building comprehensive housing estates for the elderly, because the more and more people are growing old, and there will be about 2.6 million of them by 2014, or 30% of our population. There is a serious housing problem for the elderly by then. If there is a comprehensive housing, if there are comprehensive housing estates for the elderly people can have good twilight years, and this is in line with aging in place, which is a government policy. Development may cause inconvenience to some citizens, but we need to consider the demand for housing because of our change in population structure. In the 1960s, when the MTR was first planned, the proposal was made in 1967, and it commenced operation in 1979. Between that period of time, there were road closures and diversions, and a lot of convenience was caused. But now the MTR is providing a lot of convenience and producing a lot of benefits. Next, Mr. Andy Lai of Liberal Party. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Concerning development of caverns, we support that, but we want to remind the administration that the planning, the relocation have to be carefully planned, and the administration should not cause further grievances. As for reclamation outside Victoria Harbour, I think the location is very important. A wrong location will cause adverse impacts. Now, in the first phase, Ma On Shan was chosen because of people's collective effort and the opposition of the Liberal Party. The administration has shelved that proposal. District consultation is very important. The arrangement for district consultation is not desirable. The consultation on Ma Liu Shui caused grievances among local people. Many people have expressed their grievances in the first session. And the consultation paper is loaded and misleading. Now, it's said in the paper that what are the uses? What do you expect from those reclaimed land? But if we ask for green belt or recreation area, will the administration support that? You better tell us what's the use of the land, what will be built on them. Can you tell us frankly, so that people can assess the proposal? Now, furthermore, now it is said that what should the administration, what area should the administration pay attention with regard to use of caverns and reclamation? Now, concerning the Ma Liu Shui reclamation program, it is at the estuary of Shingmun River. If reclamation change the water course, that may cause pollution. We are not provided with any environmental assessment. How can we give any comment? The administration should improve upon this consultation. Next, Mr. Choi Ting-pong. Chairman, members, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a Chinese resident. Before I speak on the local factors, I think 2 or 3 days ago, the Lausanne Institute said that Hong Kong's competitiveness declined, in particular in the area of quality of living. Let's don't talk about economic matters, land price. Now, in terms of living, quality of living, we are second from the bottom. That's about the living condition. That's about air quality. There's a price to everything. There are people from the green groups and from civic societies. If we don't agree with reclamation, then we don't agree with the new development areas to appear like West Kowloon or Cheung Kwan O. The development is very dense and the buildings are very tall. Quality of living is very poor. If there is a consensus on the quality of living, then really need to consider whether we need to increase land supply. And there is a need to balance land supply with social factors. I am living in Cheung Kwan O, next to Cheung Kwan O landfill. There is a 100-hectare site for handling C&D waste. We don't have any reclamation. The C&D waste is piled in Cheung Kwan O area 137. The size is 130 hectares, 4 times the size of Victoria Park, for dumping C&D waste. Next door, there is a meeting discussing Cheung Kwan O landfill, and it's difficult to expand the Cheung Kwan O landfill. The administration has to tell the public. In fact, the Sai Kung District Council has indicated that it opposes the fill bank to be extended in Cheung Kwan O, or the term of the fill bank be extended. If the fill bank or if the fill materials have nowhere to go, how can we deal with that? It's not about 10 or 20 years. It's about 2 years. After 2 years, the fill bank will have to be closed. Where should we put the fill materials?
I hope the administration tell us in general how are we dealing with the fill materials in Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Calvin Choi, thank you. I support cavern development so that the obnoxious facilities can be moved away from residential developments to improve the environment. Regarding the cyclone water treatment works and the land vacated, there is no specific use announced at the moment. We're worried that if it is used for housing development, that will add to the traffic load of cyclone of Hiram highways. So there must be widening of Hiram's highway as well. So there must be proper town planning. There's not just the Hiram's highway. The Zhang Guan O traffic issues should also be resolved. So the government should give us a timetable for widening Hiram's highway and also improvement of the road networks of Zhang Guan O as soon as possible. Lastly, the bridge for Lam Tin Tunnel. Well, we should have the works program as soon as possible. Thank you. Mr. Ronald Ho. Thank you. I live in 410. Regarding reclamation at Ma Liu Shui, we have some views because it's just next to Fo-Tan. We do agree that the government should and must find land for future needs, but is reclamation the only way? We have doubts about this. Regarding reclamation, it will bring some problems to residential developments in Fo-Tan, and there are also objections from students and lecturers of CU. Will it damage our environment in the process? Will affect the water quality because we're so close? Will there be any impact on water quality, and also what will be the visual impacts? So when considering reclamation, the officials must consider the following. Now, if it is a must, we don't want the site to be used for wall-like buildings. Secondly, there should be no disruption to people's daily lives. You must be people-oriented. There must be enough supporting facilities and infrastructure. Can Fo-Tan and Tai Wai railway stations support a higher population? You must convince us, give us good justifications and enough facilities so we can support you. Well, for so many years, we have suffered from planning plagues in Fo-Tan. Although a covered walkway was first planned for Fo-Tan, and yet because of some mistakes on the part of the government, it's never been built, and so we are subject to the elements every day. So while your door is always wide open, you must always have your ears to the residents. Yes, you've been to consult us, but that's not enough. You must come to consult us more often and must do so sincerely. And please really take note of our views so that your decision can really get the support of the community. So you must be well prepared before you consult us so that you can convince us. Do not impose reclamation on us. You must do town planning together with us. You should not plan behind closed doors. If you are not yet ready, you should shelve your plan so that we'll perhaps be happier. Thank you. Mr. Harris Young, government officials and chairman members of the panel. I am Harris Young. About a year ago, I came to this chamber to talk about the same subject. I opposed reclamation at Wu Kai Sha. 1 year again, afterwards, I'm here again, and I feel that no matter how strong I object to the proposal, there is a serious problem with the government's public consultation. What will be the impacts on residents and water quality if there's to be reclamation at Wu Kai Sha? The daily lorries going in and out of the place, what would it be the nuisance to the public? You consult us, but without any information, how can I give you any informed views? Is such a consultation useful or effective? Why is it that now we are talking about reclamation? The residents that will really be affected by the reclamation have not been thoroughly consulted, so they have to take the initiative to find information, and the problem is no one knows what is really happening, and there's something wrong with the government's way of consulting the public. And everyone here is asking what has happened to the government, and why is it that there is few objections to cavern development? Because we feel that NIMBY facilities will be relocated to caverns. Yes, that may benefit residents, but how many of us here know how advanced we are in the development of caverns? I myself don't know. I'd like to stress that not enough consultation has been done by the administration. And how long is it going to take for cavern development? When can it be completed? And what about environmental impact assessments, the possible impacts and implications and traffic impacts? We don't know. So no matter how many years of public consultation you do, because we don't have the real information, we won't be able to give you any informed decisions. So I dare not tell you whether I'm for or against anything here. I just want more information from the administration so that I can come up with an informed and sincere view. Thank you. Mr. Lee Kit Wai from Friends of the Harbour. Thank you. In the coming 30 to 50 years, our population may rise to 10 million. Well, this is going to happen sooner or later, if not 50 years, 60 years perhaps. 90% of our land, or 100,000 hectares, is in the NT. Why don't we use it? Well, reclamation would damage our environment, and it is not going to solve the problem. We need 10 hectares of land. Half of the 100,000 hectares of land in the NT is country park. There is still 20 to 30,000 hectares of land available. Well, Shatin alone will give you 2,200 hectares. All right, the government must be farsighted enough to consider the following. Because our lease was supposed to end in 1898. Because of the joint declaration, the NT is treated just like anywhere in Hong Kong. So why hasn't the government ensured that NT land will be treated just the same as land in other parts of Hong Kong? Why are there so many restrictions on land development in the NT? And when is the government going to amend the small house policy? Why is the government not forward-looking enough to consider the future development of Hong Kong? Why has it just gone for stopgap measures? So for the long-term interests of our community, the government should hold a seminar as soon as possible to consider how we can put Hong Kong land, NT land on a par with the land in other parts of Hong Kong. Otherwise, we won't have a future. The current mode is totally illogical. Do we have to wait for another 29 years? The government must be wise and forward-looking enough in viewing this matter. Please do not just confine our discussion to just a few hundred hectares of land. We should consider how we can cater for our future generations. We should improve the current situation and do something wise for our future generations. Yes, what we're saying today is good, but we have missed the focus. What will happen to Hong Kong in the coming 30 to 50 years? The research or the study must start now. Reclamation may take 5-10 years, but a study should start at once. We should ask the government to do the preparation work for development in the NT at once. Thank you. We have Ms. Leung Wing-Yan from Student Christian Movement of Hong Kong. So we talk about land being scarce in Hong Kong and population being high. Well, that's just common sense. That was taught to us when we were in primary school. But is it true? Perhaps not, because it's all about population projection. However, in the recent decade at least, there's been overestimation of population projection. Hong Kong has no say over how many people can come to Hong Kong. It's always using the ceiling when it comes to the projection, therefore overestimation. But the 5 proposed reclamation sites are just for our land reserve. Do we need such a big land reserve to cater for population growth? Now, if our population estimate is wrong, then perhaps we don't need so much land for our land reserve. Now, if you say reclamation is for human development, now, Student Christian Movement of Hong Kong would talk about justice. Is it true that for the sake of human needs, we don't need to pay heed of the environment, the ecology, and also the survival space of birds, flora, and fauna? You may say that they can be relocated to elsewhere. But can birds and white dolphins move to elsewhere? Can they change their breeding grounds? After reclamation, the sites would be put in a land reserve. We don't even know what the land will be for. If it is for addressing the housing needs of Hong Kong residents, that may be something desirable, but you just have to take a look at the high-tech development. There will only be 3% of the land for public housing. A large proportion of the site is for property developers for building luxury flats. As Mr. Leung Kwok said, well, after reclamation, the sites will enjoy fabulous sea view, and these units would not be affordable to us. Well, young people want to build their own homes. Now, they can apply for PRH under the singleton category, but there is no performance pledge of 3 years waiting time for them. And by the time they allocated a flat, well, their income limit might already exceed, the income already exceed the limit. So should they say to the boss, well, please don't give me a pay rise, otherwise I won't be eligible for PRH anymore? Officials like to criticize us for being lazy, but perhaps this is something of your own making. Mr. Fok Chiu Chung. Thank you. I have consulted my old university schoolmates and also different professionals, including teachers, police officers, retirees in my church. So I think I can represent some of them to a certain extent. I think there is no arguing that we need land for housing because our living environment is very crowded. The government has proposed a 6-pronged approach to increase land supply. I'm sure there will be objections no matter how you are going to consult the community. Other than reclamation, I don't see a way out. I don't see how we can have enough land for housing. Now, if we continue this argument, well, a speaker said that our competitive rating has dropped, or ranking has dropped, and if we don't address this problem, this is a problem. In 2003, Singapore, or in 2030, Singapore would provide 10,000 hectares of land by reclamation. Here we only talk about 2,000 to 3,000 hectares. So Singapore has an excellent long-term plan for dealing with the land problem. Now, if we continue this argument for another 10 years, I don't know what will happen to Hong Kong. Well, we spent a lot of time arguing about Kai Tak and WKCD. The two sites were left idle for a long time. So for the future of Hong Kong, we should stop our controversy. For the sake of our future generations, we should stop this controversy. Of course, reclamation may bring environmental issues, but they can be overcome. I'm sure the engineering sector and the EPD can do something about that. 3 out of the 5 proposals involve the white dolphins. True, we have to take care of the marine ecology, but this is just a local issue. I think we should be concerned of broader issues. For instance, consumption of shark's fins. Every year, 100 million sharks have been caught with their fins cut off and thrown back into the sea. This will have a major impact in our food chain, and I think we should focus our attention on this subject rather than on white dolphins. Thank you. Mr. Kwok Chi Wai. Thank you. I support the policy or the enhancing land supply strategy. I support reclamation. Many of the views expressed today are very constructive, but because Hong Kong is a metropolis, we need development, and there are give and takes inevitably. And we have to ensure that the compromises can be monitored. The government talked about eco shoreline development after reclamation. Very interested in this subject. As the government said, from planning to implementation, it takes about 10 years to reclaim a site. So will the administration carry out pilot schemes of eco shorelines so as to please choose shorelines where water current is not so rapid, such as mangroves in Tai Po and in Stone Curtis Island, and also areas in Mai Shan. The water current is not that rapid there, and I'm sure there will be sites suitable for trial implementation of eco shorelines, and the government should monitor the effectiveness of such a measure and see whether improvements can be made so that we can accumulate local experience, so that when reclamation is actually done, we can have a better chance of success when it comes to using eco shoreline to improve our shore ecology. Please don't underestimate the natural recovery power of nature. For instance, after the major tsunami in Southeast Asia and Phuket, where there was a devastating effect, but even without human intervention, the shores have recovered after a few years. So I am sure that even with urban development, we can ensure or we can protect the environment. I'm also inclined to support the development of artificial islands, because that will provide new land for new town development. In Hong Kong, we do not have spacious flats and enough open space in the urban areas. We need large sites for residential development, and I think reclamation and artificial islands are two possible solutions. Of course, there must be good traffic support. Thank you. Mr. Lo Chong Man. Thank you, Chairman. I support reclamation outside Victoria Harbour as one of the ways to increase land supply, and I believe this is an important means because of the following reasons. Now, take redevelopment or development in the NT as an example. We need rehousing of the residents, and the time will be much longer. Reclamation can provide a large piece of land for large-scale comprehensive development so that there will be enough facilities and infrastructure for the future population. Reclamation usually takes place at the waterfront that will provide job opportunities for town planners and professionals to redesign the environment to provide quality living for our community. I'm an architect. I used to work outside Hong Kong. I was involved in the design and development of theme casino facilities in Macau.
Usually, these large projects are conducted on reclaimed land, and I had grasped the opportunities provided by these projects. Regarding the reclamation sites, I see a lot of people are object to Maliusoi. I have the following views. Someone mentioned the Maliusoi option will have synergy with the wastewater treatment facility. I'm aware that Chinese you have a lot of objections, but as an architect, I also see that in light of the 334 high school reform, the CU campus is insufficient. A lot of old buildings were torn down to build new buildings, and that is not in line with having a green landscape. So why don't we consider reclaiming land and expanding the campus? I'm also aware Mao and San residents have a lot of concerns. So I suggest the land reclaimed should have some incentives such that developers will consider vertical greening. Mr. Leung Wai-ho, I'm a civil engineer. Land for housing needs to be increased, and reclamation is necessary. We have a very urgent situation. First of all, how do we set the priority, and how do we shorten the time? From the government proposal, public engagement, to scheme design and finance approval, tender, detailed design and construction, it takes more than 10 years. So we need to consider how to shorten the time. We've discussed a lot, but I think we need to have trust in the government and consultant. They are more professional. If you don't believe in anyone, then how do you proceed? We also have to consider the priority. The government has put forward a few choices, and which need to be accelerated. We have to consider environmental, noise, air pollution. I feel that Long Gutan Siu Ho Wan, Sunny Bay, Ma Liu Shui should go first because they have an existing MTR and highway network. Then I would support these 4 sites. Another 2 sites, Qingyi Southwest. First of all, it's close to an oil depot and harbor, so we need to consider that a bit more. The artificial island, is it expensive? Is it feasible? Have we considered the environmental impact? Thank you. Mr. Xiu Zhongman, basically we support the reclamation and cavern scheme. There is an urgent need. People can't afford housing, they need to live in subdivided flats. We have fragmented land and there are obstacles in land resumption. But through reclamation there's more flexibility. We have Shatin, Daibo that were reclaimed, built on reclaimed land. The reclaimed land could be used in government housing, commercial residential housing. It can relieve housing pressure. People object to reclaiming in their district, but this will occur everywhere. The Ma Liu Shui gives rise to objection from Ma San residents. I think the government can do more environmental consultation and adjust its plan to minimize public inconvenience. Building a land bank is forward-thinking. We just have a general direction, no specific plans, because it might be because there are too many uncertainties and it's a long way from completion date, since it takes almost 10 years. So overall speaking, land reclamation is a solution. It's hard to find a perfect solution. We need to strike a balance between sustainable development. So lastly, we would like the government to take a multi-pronged approach. Thank you. Miss Anora, I'm here on my holiday to speak on behalf of friends. They are a group that have been neglected. I knew them a year ago, as I spent 8 months in Samshoipo. I did an exhibition on caged homes, and they are living in dire conditions. A family of 4 live in 80 square feet. They can only install a bunker bed. Their lounge, bedroom, kitchen, everything is just one on the bunker bed. Their kids are roaming the streets because they don't. It's very hot. There's insufficient ventilation. There's also a 2-3-year-old kid. He has to his astigmatic. The TV is just 2 feet away from him. He doesn't even have healthy eyesight because we have very cramped living conditions because there's insufficient land. So I hope the government, in its planning and development, can deploy resources more equitably. Some people question whether there is insufficient land. I want to tell you, think about the 170,000 subdivided flats and the 200,000 people in the public housing queue. Some person also mentioned the government can look at, ahead 20, 30 years. But when I think about my friends, short-term planning is just as important. So how can we find more land? We don't have enough hospitals, private housing, public housing, old age centers. We need 20,000 public housing, 20,000 private housing, 5,000 HOS. So I'd like you to consider the public interest. We need more constructive comments rather than just blind objections. We should focus on planning and distribution of resources. Mr. Marco Au, Golden 50, base its discussion on objective data. We have lack of land affecting hardware. For example, in shopping malls, have not caught up with demand. Retail went up 60-odd%, but retail space only went up by 1%. We therefore see rents escalating. A lot of shops have closed down. Young people can't start business, and we see a vicious inflation. So not only shopping malls, hotels, office space run into the same problem. We now have the highest rents in the world. A lot of multinationals have relocated their offices from Hong Kong to Singapore, Shanghai. Singapore has been reclaiming land, and in the last 10 years they created 300,000 jobs. So aside from economic hardware issues, livelihood are also affected. Hospitals, sports centers are way short in supply. We forecast that the number of senior citizens will double in the next 20 years. So in order to serve these people, we need more land. Will land be used to build luxury units? The government needs to clarify its development blueprint, and legislators also need to monitor the government. But we should not stop building new office space, hospitals, housing, and so on. Thank you. Mr. Tim Lee from Right of People's Livelihood and Legal Association. The government wants to increase land supply, but have you visited Gamti? Are there high rises there? If you reclaim land, is it to build housing estates? Can that solve the problem of 200,000 people in public housing queue and people living in subdivided flats? The land to build public housing, does that solve subdivided flat problem? We say there's not enough land, we need more public housing. land reclaimed is not used to build public housing. They're going to build luxury units for rich people. So you cannot equate the two. But in NT West, NT East, how much land is scrapyard? There are deserted villages. It's now used to store containers, and the villages collect rent. A lot of government land is being encroached. So we don't need to reclaim land. If you reclaim land, it's irreversible. But Hong Kong's land usage rate is very low. We have mountains, we have valleys. So we object to the government reclamation proposal. We support developing caverns, but we do not support increasing land supply through reclaiming land, because especially building an artificial island destroys the natural habitat. Ms. So Ji-Kei, the government says the plan is for young people. I want to tell you, even though I'm young, but I object to reclamation. The government should shelve the reclamation because there's insufficient consultation. A lot of people don't know what's going on. And most of the stressing is that the government respects young people, but when we ask for more consultation, they tell us, some officials tell us, the students are politically apathetic. But in public consultation, what has the government done? They have hosted different forums, but aside from the 2 consultation exercises, how many times have they met with the public? The government has APIs for glass bottles and littering, but how come on 3,000 hectare reclamation there's no API? The government says it's a waste of public funds. I think if the OCs didn't tell them there was a consultation, how many of them would be aware? Another perplexing issue is the strategic environmental assessment. The officials have avoided answering us. Why isn't there a strategic environmental assessment? On stage, the officials say that strategic environmental assessment is not part of the assessment process, it's too late. And a consultant also said strategic environmental assessment is a high-level process. But they told me below stage that they already conducted that. If they have conducted the assessment, they need to disclose the reports. We have no information. How is it done? What has been done? We have nothing. Lastly, I question the reclamation. Can it effectively deal with the population and social problems? On housing issues, we see a logistics park, marina parks. Minority interests override the general public interest. we're not just objecting because there are environmental destruction, but the existing reclamation plan, can it resolve? Time's up.
Dr. Wong-fat. I've submitted my written submission. I just highlight several points. The administration intends to apply for funding from the LegCo. The funding is to conduct engineering feasibility studies and also EIA studies on these proposals. I hope the Legislative Council will add an item, a very important item, to the studies. We need to consider sustainable development. I suggest that there should be a conservation program that can be put up for discussion in this council and also with the general public. Whether there is landside development or development at sea, we need to conduct a discussion on a knowledge-based approach. At present, we have the approach according to the EIA and also according to sustainable, the advice of Sustainable Development Council. That is a system that has been established in the past decades. The concept of sustainability should be applied to these projects. Conservation and development should go hand in hand. In conducting the 12 pilot schemes, the conservation proposals should first be discussed before before development can go ahead. The proposals are relatively accessible. Long Ku Tan, Sunny Bay, and Ma Liu Shui are easily accessible and they are controversial. Few discuss the artificial island in central waters. The administration has not given an exact place. The emphasis shouldn't be put on accessible sites. The government is now dumping 600 to 700 tons of fill materials in other places. They use barges to take away those fill materials. Next is Mr. Lau Wai Peng, a village representative of Long Ku Tan. I know that the government is going to reclaim land in Long Ku Tan. We know that the project is very big. The size is about 200 to 300 hectares. We are very worried. Since there has been the Tuen Mun New Town, we have all the obnoxious facilities such as power generation plants, landfills, and other obnoxious facilities. They are all near our village and they are damaging to the environment. If the government is going to reclaim land in front of our doorstep, then the natural shoreline, the beach, will go away. And during the project, there will be a lot of construction vehicles, a lot of dust and pollution, and we really can't bear that. Long Ku Tan is a low-lying area, and there may be heat waves and also flooding. Now, after reclamation, there will be a lot of construction works, tall buildings, and then our village will be surrounded by tall buildings. The Laos have been living there for several hundred years, and we have big families. The development in Longku Town will affect the future of our village. The government is going to cut the hill slopes and reclaim the land, and that affects the reclaimed land from the sea, and that affects our livelihood. We have not been consulted. There is no plan as to how our livelihood can be protected. Now, we have a villagers meeting, and we unanimously oppose the project without prior consultation with us. We oppose any plans that will damage the environment. I hope you will visit us and look at our situation. Thank you. Next, Ms. Ho Ka-po. Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad chance to talk to the Secretary for Development. In the past consultation fora, the Policy Secretary didn't appear. The departmental staff were present to listen. This is the second phase of public engagement. In the first phase, we discussed a lot on the 6-prong approach, 6 ways of producing land. Our question is why attention is focused on rock caverns and reclamation outside the Victoria Harbour. Is it because of the fact that the information is lopsided? The Green Sense is against blind reclamation. And the government should first have a population policy and should first assess Hong Kong's capacity, carrying capacity, before assessing projects for expansion of land supply. And can reclamation solve the housing problem? Thus, the administration has a demand policy. If we don't have a demand policy, we don't know whether the population estimate is correct. We don't know population growth will be as it is depicted or projected by the administration. And we don't have the demand side numbers. We really don't know how, we don't know what land policy is appropriate. Now, the administration claims that population growth leads to the demand for land. They said that by 2013, population is estimated to be 8.9 million, but it is an estimate only. And we stop the mainland mothers from giving birth to children in Hong Kong. The estimate was done before that policy. So with the new policy in place, would there be a slowdown in population growth? Would there be a slowdown in demand for land? The government should have a long-term population policy. It should assess the carrying capacity of Hong Kong in terms of population. Land supply is not just limited to providing land for residential use. What's the purpose? For whom is reclamation done? Now, new reclamation such as Cheung Kwan O South, Pak Sek Kok, and West Kowloon, they are packaged as places for luxury flats. Say for Pak Sek Kok, for the proposed sites, would they be for luxury flats only? Next is Mr. Kwok Coleman. Good morning, Chairman. I want to speak on artificial island. Japan, Dubai, Singapore have artificial islands. Our international airport is built on an artificial island. The Hong Kong side of the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge is also built on an artificial island. It said that the island will provide about 1,400 to 2,400 hectares of land It will provide space for obnoxious facilities. Food materials can be put there, and it can be a new development area to handle the housing problem. But there is no free lunch. If you look at the bright side, but what about the social cost of an artificial island? If we put obnoxious facilities there, that may be a landfill, that may be the island for columbariums and also incinerators. But if you put all the refuse to the artificial island, will that cause even more pollution? Will that not affect the ecology of the surrounding waters? Is it really wise to do so? After we build an artificial island which is located in our central waters, will that affect the fairways? Will that narrow down the fairways if bridges are built linking with the island of Hong Kong Island and Lantau, Cheung Chau, and Lama? Then will we have to drive instead of to these places instead of taking ferries? And will that affect these islands? In fact, there are a lot of land available. According to the planning department, they have a study on Yuen Long South. I support that study. The area under study is 1,500 hectares, and about 200 hectares have potential. 85% of the land belongs to indigenous villagers or developers. If such land is to be developed, there is a need to deal with land title and also the container yards. Instead of spending efforts on convincing people the merit of reclamation, why not make the study of South Yuen Long better? Next is Ms. Dorothy Wen. We believe that there is not enough justification for reclamation. In the Policy Address 2013, the CE said that he would like to build a good land reserve for Hong Kong, and the land reserve will be more than short-term need in the future. When new needs arise, we can provide land. It seems that we should reclaim first before decide on land use. That's problematic. The artificial island and the development in Siu Ho Wan do not carry much information. If we don't know the exact plan, how do we know whether reclamation should be conducted at the proposed site? And we really don't know the land use, and how can we support you? Now it is said that the government is going to reduce adverse impact on the environment. But the question is whether we should reclaim land instead of whether how we should minimize environmental impact. There are many vacant units in Hong Kong. In 2013, the vacancy rate for residential units is 4.3%, or 48,000 units. That's really sad. We have vacant units available, and yet a lot of people are stuffed in subdivided flats or partition flats. The government should put more efforts on clamping down the property markets and step up planning. After reclamation, the land will likely be built with luxury apartments, and vacancy rate will only increase. reclamation cannot benefit the grassroots people. We therefore hope that the government will have long-term planning, detailed planning, and should provide us with more information. The government should find other ways to increase land supply, such as making use of vacant farms, vacant container yards, so on and so forth. Next, Ms. Yu Hin-bik. I went to several public fora. I listened to the explanations given by the officials, in particular the CEDD. They tried to respond to the views of those who oppose reclamation. But I still want to insist on this, and that is the land reserve. Do we really need reclamation or developing caverns to increase our land reserve? We have vacant land and we have sites damaged, and we can make use of them. I know their reply. You say it's a six-pronged approach. You don't just do reclamation. But on each consultation forum, we keep saying the same thing. Shouldn't you have a priority list? The environment is very important. You agree to protect the environment, but we see the government going for the easy way out, such as reclamation. We hope that there is a clear priority list, and you should use the land that has already been damaged. It is said that the land reserve is for young people. It is preparation for the rainy days. But we have not seen any overall or comprehensive planning. We don't have a vision of how Hong Kong will look like after after a certain period of time. Can you tell us what Hong Kong will be like? Some say that we are short-sighted, we are selfish, we are already living on reclaimed land, but we don't want to see that repeated. We don't want to see beautiful scenery, natural scenery forfeited. If the government just blame everything on the shortage of land supply, such as that is not appropriate. Mr. C.Y. Leung says that there won't, we can't have the cake and eat it. But this is just passing the buck. Damaging the environment is just an easy way out, and you just leave the problem to the next term of the government. Ms. Law Nga-ling. It said that more than 100,000 people are living in subdivided flats, and some are living in cage apartments. Property prices are high. These problems are mainly caused by wrong housing policy. We don't have enough land for public housing, but many public housing sites had been turned into private housing estates, and we have a lot of vacant land. Now some barracks, some have turned into private clubs. In Kai Tak, a huge piece of land, but few is given to public housing. It is government policy. The problem is government policy. It is about how we make use of the land, not that we don't have enough land. We just use land to build luxury apartments and private flats, and we build flats for speculation. The government should make good use of vacant land, make good use of existing resources.
As to population policy, have we got a proper discussion? Has LegCo ever discussed what Hong Kong people want for a population policy to substantially increase our population? Is that supported by Hong Kong people? These are very fundamental issues. Now, if we want to identify land to put into land reserve, what's that for? What will be the exact users of land in the land reserve? We don't know, so how can you expect us to support you to reclaim land? Let me cite a very simple example. 6 or 7 years ago, there was reclamation proposed in Central, and the Star Ferry, the Queen's Pier were to be demolished, and the government gave us a clear undertaking that the waterfront after reclamation would be returned to the Hong Kong community for an excellent harbourfront promenade. It will be public open space. However, in last February, reclamation was completed, and all of a sudden we realized that a large portion of the land in front of the PLA garrison would be handed over to the garrison. And that was never mentioned when we were persuaded to accept reclamation. So you want us to trust you, you must give us very clear policies. And before we have clear answers to these questions, we will oppose reclamation. Mr. Chen To. Well, we need land because the population growth is far too quick. Even primary students will tell you the way out. You must contain population growth. If our population keeps growing, even if you are to reclaim the whole of a harbour, you cannot resolve the problem. It's disappointing that for so many years the government has not talked about containing population growth. The former CE encouraged Hong Kong people to raise more kids and also allowed mainlanders to come to stay in Hong Kong. So, to solve this problem, the fundamental principle is to have a policy to control population growth before you talk about reclamation. And I think this is just a prelude to damage of our shoreline. If we give the administration the green light, will it just stop at that? Certainly not. After reclamation of these sites, the administration will certainly say that to address the demand from local users is going to build this and that, and then highways and bridges, and to boost the consumption and tourism. There will be large shopping malls, theme parks, this and that. And district councillors will say that I want the world's largest artificial beach there, and another district council will want it to be turned into this and that. So the extent of reclamation will certainly be larger than what is proposed here. Will these sites really be used for solving housing needs? Not necessarily. What can we do to ensure the government will not, to stop the greed of the government in reclamation? I have a passion for animals and living organisms. Yes, you may not be as passionate as I am, but reclamation would damage the habitats and of marine species. Even species on land would be affected. Do you know this type of lizard? It is a very rare species. In some islands off the eastern part of Lantau, they can be found, but they are really very, very rare. Once an artificial island is built, I'm sure the habitat of this kind of species will be undermined, and jungle forests will encroach into their habitat, and this rare species will go into extinction. So I urge the administration first to think about how we can control our population growth before proposing reclamation. Thank you. Ms. Wen Chi Yan, thank you. I am a student in Chinese University. Well, recently in the media, we saw that public consultation on reclamation in Tongchong has started. And then a few months ago, there was the proposal of reclamation at Ma Liu Shui. And then there was a signature campaign where thousands of lecturers and students of the university supported. And then the administration claims that because we don't have enough land and too many people, and as a result, it's been we always have to reclaim land. But this is not really the case. According to information, there are 2,000 odd hectares of land involving open car parks and damaged natural environment, and also other sites. So why is it that we don't have enough land? The government has frequently overestimated population growth. I think it is playing games to create the illusion that we really don't have enough land to cope with the population growth. I'm sure officials know these better than I do. Then why are they so adamant that they want to damage the natural environment? The reclaimed sites would be put into a land reserve. There is no designated use for them yet. Usually, they will be used for building luxury flats unaffordable to local residents. And then the government will then use an excuse to reclaim more land, to build land, housing for Hong Kong people. I think it is a lie to say that with reclamation we can have more spacious flats. It's just like people lending money from you, a friend lending money from you to buy a race car. Because once the environment is damaged, it is irrecoverable. Our economy or mode of development is just economy-led. This will make Hong Kong indeed very poor. There will be nothing less other than money. Now, what about the vibrancy and also the spiritual needs of city dwellers?
Only when the last river has been poisoned, only when the last fish has been caught, then only when you will see that money cannot be eaten. 當所有政策或者發展計劃都只係向錢看，我哋最後
Now, if we are so money-minded, we will only be left with nothing. So I urge the Secretary, as well as everyone here, to think twice. Do we really need this mode of development, and that is to damage everything here? Thank you. May I remind the speakers that if they have got speaking notes for submission to us, please put down your name on the speaking notes. You can leave them with our staff before you leave so as to facilitate our understanding of your views. Thank you. We have a few minutes left for members to ask questions and the administration to respond.
2分鐘我哋幾多分鐘？我哋仲有原本原證。
All right. 3 members have registered to ask questions, and they are Ms. Samli Lau, Ms. Chen Yun Han, and Mr. Chen Chi Chun, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Anyone else? All right, let's allocate time. Two minutes each, please. Ms. Samli Lau. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the deputations and individuals for giving us their views this morning. And so, Chairman, you won't have time to eat lunch, but I'm very grateful to the 100 or so deputations. Now, the Secretary is final here, but let me tell you that if you accord top priority to work of LegCo, you will certainly find the time to be here. And the deputations and individuals looked forward to seeing the Secretary this morning. Yes, the proposals are very controversial. While many people, including in particular those from the engineering sector, support the proposals, many residents feel that existing sites have not been fully utilized. So I think the government owes us a paper to explain things such as small house policies and land in the NT. Have some of the land been left idle? Can there be rezoning or can redevelopment be used? Please don't choose reclamation as the best or the easy way out. People think that this should be the last resort rather. Secretary, I don't think you have enough time to address all their questions, but you should address their concerns eventually. And I hope the Secretary can find time to visit the local communities to listen to their views. A speaker mentioned that Mrs. Carrie Lam used to sit through public forums and meetings in this council. When the Queen's Pier was about to be demolished, Mrs. Carrie Lam went to meet them and discuss with them. Ms. Chen Yun-han. Well, you expect the Secretary to respond one by one. All right. Okay, an overall response later. Ms. Chen Yun-han. First, I want to thank the deputations and individuals. This morning, in the first session, I think there was a deputation representing CU Hong Kong, and the individual felt that the consultation process was very bad, and then the reply from the administration was that it was already perfectly organized, well organized. But the same views and even strong views have been expressed in this session. Do you think that after 3 public forums that is enough? No, let me tell you, I have engaged in community work for many years, and I think we have to meet numerous times to allow members of the public to express their views to the community. And then I think it is fair to ask you to present the whole picture to us. Should we go to cavern development and reclamation right away? No. You cannot convince us if you don't present the whole picture to us. You want to develop caverns and reclaim land, you have to give us an account of the other ways to make land available. I'm sure various interests are involved. This session, a few fishermen representatives said that you had never considered the fact that Hong Kong used to be a fishing port and you had not thought of their needs. You have to be broad-minded enough to consider different concerns and interests. If you just concentrate on cavern development and reclamation, then you fail to address the concerns of deputations. We still have 2 more sessions in the afternoon. Thank you. Mr. Chen Chi-chun. Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank the deputations and individuals, many of which are not here for the first time to express their views. Why are they so eager to come each and every time when they have a chance? This goes to prove that their concerns have not been adequately addressed by the administration. And I think you've been too optimistic to think that you can have a direct dialogue with the Secretary. Don't think so. And Ms. Chen Yun-han talked about the process of consultation and strategy. And this morning we talked about the distribution of questionnaires and even the timing. I think the Secretary must review the consultation process. please don't give people the impression that you are trying to shape public opinion instead of gauging public opinion. And have residents been given the full picture? If they are not given comprehensive information, they're just asked to tell you their gut feeling about, say, reclamation is useless. Those who buy in to your broad principles, they will say yes, and for residents affected, they will say no, just like the creation of an artificial beach in Long May. Well, the residents and also the district council said good. Now, you may say that the community has gone back on its work. Why is it that they now say no? Now, if you do a questionnaire survey now on that subject, I'm sure 80% of the respondents will object. So if you do not do your public engagement well, then your work will be abortive. Don't blame people for going back on their words. It's all because you did not supply, either you did not supply enough information or you gave them misleading information leading to that conclusion. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, all right? I heard about the individual talking about the experience in Sham Shui Po. Well, yes, human beings are part of nature. But since we are human, I think we do have concepts we can think. That's the difference between man and animals. Secretary, your argument is that without reclamation, it's not going to work. While you say that there's a six-pronged approach, the other 5 options are useless. They're just there for window dressing, and only reclamation can be efficient and satisfy your planning needs. But what about rezoning and idle land and coming to LegCo to amend the law to allow you to use which you cannot touch now, such as country park land? Is that possible? You cannot intimidate us with the current state affairs of your own making. Go and take a look at WK West Kowloon reclamation. How much PRH can you find there? And then, do you know, at night when I pass through the West Kowloon reclamation, I don't even see lights because the units are vacant. They are bought but left vacant. And golf course, you can ask people to play golf course at Kwanan Hu to in Shamjan. You do the same, Secretary. Can you move that golf course? Can you just recover the land from that golf course? Because we're talking about over 100 hectares of land. Can you do that? Give me an answer. Ask government officials to go play golf in Shamjan. Okay? Thank you. Any other members? Anyone else? No? Then I give the floor to the administration. Can you do so in 5 minutes? Because we've already overrun. Thank you, Chairman. I know you have sat here for the whole morning and you're all hungry, so I'll try to be succinct. Some members criticize or query whether we accord top priority to the work of LegCo. Certainly not. Certainly no. I have worked in the government for a few months. I can say for sure that I've never dodged my work in LegCo. I just want to say that in our bureau, our portfolio is very big and we have a lot of work to attend to. And secondly, even if I am absent, my team is present. If you have been to forums and meetings with residents, you can see colleagues from the bureau very dedicated and engaged in listening to the views of the residents. So even if I were not there, I knew their views. and whether we have gone for the easiest option when it comes to the six-pronged approach, whether we have just chosen reclamation with no regard to the other options. No, certainly this is not true. We don't think that reclamation is the easy way out. It is not easy. It's just that by means of reclamation, we can have a relative larger site for more comprehensive planning, so that we do not have single blocks here and there. And in addition to residential development, we can have offices, business users, and we can create job opportunities for the local population. Take Tung Chung as an example. Tung Chung West and Tin Shui Wai. Now, we call Tin Shui Wai a tragic city because of rather lopsided planning there. There's only PRH.
There's no employment. It's remote. So if we have a large tract of land, from a planning, from a resident perspective, a job opportunity perspective, it's better. Do we neglect other areas and just reclaim land? It was asked, why don't we resume land? In NT and Northeast, we will provide you with an adjusted review. It's not as easy as you think. It involves resumption, relocation of agriculture. So currently, we don't have a simple solution. Even urban renewal, you see, there are two detractions. They are smaller lots, for example, Dai Kok Joi or Sam Sui Po. It's just one or two street numbers. There are a lot of residents. After renewal, we're not able to accommodate more people. And in some older estates, there's room for renovation. But to renew these, we need to have temporary housing for the affected residents. Just now, you talked about golf courses. I haven't played golf in more than a decade. I can say, in a private club review, the legal opinion we receive, the bureau responsible is the Home Affairs Bureau. The legal opinion we receive is that private clubs the land grants to them, we need to give them notification in order to resume the land. But if we have a renewal every 15 years, if there's no appropriate arrangement, we cannot bear the legal costs. As to consultation work, we will review our work, and I hope you can see that our team is working very hard, and they are trying to answer your questions. At this stage, we're not seeking funding to reclaim land, but after identifying suitable sites, we're seeking funding to do in-depth feasibility studies, and in the process we will look at the dolphin issue, the environmental issue, to see whether we can do reclamation. And in this respect, I hope you can give us an opportunity, because even with the six-pronged approach, we have to undertake projects simultaneously. We don't have room to deal with it sequentially. We do have a very tight housing supply. I agree that we need to review the population policy, and Carrie Lam is leading a task force, but we can't wait for their work to complete before we proceed. Even though our population is not growing as fast, but the dependency ratio is out of skew in the future. There will be a lot less younger people to take care of older people. And since we see there's a growth in population, and every 10 years we need a new Shatin town, then we need to proceed now. We also have 200,000 in the queue for public housing, 170,000 in subdivided flats, and we need schools, hospitals, and even if we get 10 hectares, we can't build 10 hectares of housing. We might only be able to build 3 or 4 hectares of housing. We need to build schools, hospitals, infrastructure. There was also criticism that we're building luxury units. If you look at Shatin, these were reclaimed land, but there's a lot of public housing. The statistics I have indicate that private housing exceeding 70 meters, it's less than 10%. So you have to look at the statistics. We have a lot of people in difficult conditions. How do we resolve that? Chairman, I'd like to add, I can only return in the 4th session. I can't attend the 3rd session. Thank you for his response and your attendance. And it's now lunchtime. We resume at 2:30, and please return punctually.